Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're joining us from. It's my pleasure to be moderating our closing session today. My name is Nash. I work on the Google for Education team. I'm one of the regional program managers based in the US, based in Chicago. And with me today, I have three amazing panelists, all from our partners who were instrumental in making this entire event happen over the past 2 days. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but we have Catherine from Book Creator, Riley from Pear and James from Screencastify all here today. So let's go ahead. Riley, can you please introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Riley. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Pear. My son is just walking in, and we've been running Pear for about 6 years. I was a high school teacher before that and a computer programmer before that. That's it for me.
Thanks. Catherine.
Yeah, I'm Catherine Capillo. I am based in Chicago too, so shout out to Chicago, Annie. I am on the school partnerships team here at Book Creator. I am a former teacher myself. I've taught kinder all the way through high school, so I'm super happy to be here and closing out the sessions.
Awesome. And James.
Hi, everyone. My name is James Francis. I'm the CEO of Screencastify, also in Chicago. Shout out Catherine and Annie. I've been with Screencastify for a little over 3 years now, and super excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, that was everyone watching. That was not an intended Chicago takeover of this closing session. Just so happens to be that way. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. I have some questions that I want to ask you guys, and I'll help prompt you just to make sure everyone has a chance to speak. So my first question is just a pretty simple and basic one. You know, we all work in education. What inspires you in your work in education? And maybe we can start with you, James.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think Screencastify, it's a little bit of a different situation, I think, from many ed tech tools out there, in that Screencastify itself was not created for education at first. We put it out there without really knowing who was going to use it, and then just sort of watch what happened. And it really took off among educators, particularly in K-12, and we responded to that and built our product and our brand and everything just to really serve this education community. So it's something that kind of happened by accident. And since then, I personally have learned, I don't have classroom experience, so much about what it means to serve the education community. It is, what I love the most about it is this massive community of people that is all in it for the same goal, which is improving student outcomes. Like, there's no built-in competition or zero-sum game that I have seen in my past, where, I used to be selling, B2B software, and our customers were trying to beat out others, right? And I think that there's this like mutual, we may disagree on the best way to achieve a particular outcome, but we all have this mutual understanding that we're in it for the same thing. And it makes it a really, really inspiring and also just like a more positive space to work in. And I am so glad that it has kind of worked out that way for Screencastify, since we decided to really commit to it.
That's awesome. Yeah, what a cool story too, like making that shift. Riley, can you share with us what inspires your work?
So we started out, my wife and I are co-founders of Pear, and we started out as classroom teachers at a high school where one-to-one laptops were just introduced, like 2005 or something. So a long time ago, but we first noticed that laptops were making it harder to teach and harder to reach. Like, kids were on, it was Facebook then, and the actual content of the classroom was getting more obscured. And so that was the initiation reason for Pear. Like, this technology should be making it easier to teach, and we've developed all of our tools to make it easier for teachers to teach well. But now I really think about kids who, when a teacher's got 20 or 30 kids in their classroom, or now on Zoom or Google Meet, trying to make those kids feel like they are an important member of a community of people learning together is, I think, bigger than the grades or the college acceptance or the other measures that we use. So what drives me right now, and for the last several years since we've really gotten going, is the idea that everyone could be graduating from school feeling like what they do in their community matters, and that people are listening to them and actually care what they are saying. So that's our educational through line. We've really focused on driving equity and engagement and achievement, but that piece of like culture where there's community that cares about every member is what really inspires me.
That's amazing. And Catherine, you want to share with us, like, what inspires your work?
Yeah, kind of going off of both what they just said as well. I think things have changed just recently too, but my main thing just with Book Creator right now overall is really bringing creativity in the classroom, especially during these times when we're also in this virtual environment. What even brought me to work at Book Creator is giving students this opportunity to share their specific voice with their community, with the world, and creating this collaborative environment with others around the world. So being able to focus on 21st century skills, whether it be creativity, collaboration, communication, among others. Overall, the jobs of tomorrow don't really exist today. So being able to knowing that every day when I'm working, putting and investing into this and creating those opportunities for our students for tomorrow really motivates me. And education is changing every day, and we've seen a lot of that even this year. So being in this type of work just really inspires me every day.
That's awesome. I have to say, I'm sure you guys have seen it too, just over the last 2 days, but it's just been incredible seeing the amount of people on the chat, just communicating with one another, and all of the presenters and using all of the different tools and products that you guys have built. It's just been awesome and truly, like, it's been inspiring for me just to see as well. It's always a great reminder just to see like the impact. I was shifting gears, I'd love to talk, especially like you mentioned, like we're in a very unusual time, unprecedented time in modern human history right now. How have you guys, as your organizations, have you been staying connected with the education community? And Riley, maybe I'll start with you this time.
Yeah. Well, so our company, Pear Deck, came out of the education community, and 3 of our 4 co-founders were teachers, and so we've since then hired a lot of teachers, and we just feel naturally connected through our networks. But we've been really eager to hear from people via surveys and just like constant tests with customers and users, and trying things out to see if they're going to solve the short-term needs that people are having that are cropping up all over. So there's lots of like strategic, like specific tactics that we use to stay connected and make sure that we're not losing sight and getting too, attached to our edtech company status. But I don't know, just continuing to talk and listen and ask and see how what we're doing is working, and then responding to that as our key driving indicator.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. And let's see, let's go to James. How have you guys been, keeping connected with your global community of people who are using Screencastify?
Yeah, it's not easy. Normally, we spend a lot of time in the classroom, sitting in the back of classrooms, observing. Usually around here in Illinois and Indiana, like our most recent product, the idea came in the car ride home from one of those classroom visits, and that is something that we really miss. But I think that one of the things that we have been doing is actually, trying to. So Screencastify has reached and been used by a huge new community of educators in the last 4 or 5 months, and those people are not the same as our existing community, right? They have a whole new set of challenges. They have a whole new world. They have a whole new level of comfort with technology or remote learning or video creation or what have you. And so we have been trying to have one-on-one conversations with educators that have never made a video before, or have never really used technology before, or who don't like Screencastify for whatever reason. I think one of the things that I think is a responsibility of Screencastify is to kind of step up and serve this broadened community that is relying on us. And I think in order to do that, it's really important for us to speak with people who we wouldn't normally interact with on Twitter or, you know, through a product survey or something like that.
Yeah, amazing. I'm going to ask you a few more questions about that in just a second. And Catherine, though, how would you say, you know, have you at Book Creator, have you guys been trying to stay connected with the educator community?
Yeah, I think it kind of buckets down to specific groups. We do have an ambassador community. We have over, I would say, about 850 ambassadors from different schools all across the world. So they're in that ambassador community. We have in that network, that's where we try to seek feedback from them, where we'll either survey them. We try to beta test through their classrooms and things like that to get ideas, figure out what's working, what's not working. We also have a Facebook group. So we really encourage any teachers around the world to just join and share ideas that way. We have experienced users in that Facebook group. We have brand new users. It's just a way for them to share. And then also we used to attend a lot of conferences. So just talking with people that have never used Book Creator before, then also experienced users too. So we're really excited to see how virtual conferences progress this year too, even just like things like this, and learning from different members of the education community too, because we really want to figure out what's working, what's not working, and how can we really make a product that's going to benefit the teachers and also our students moving forward.
Yeah, amazing. Well, and I think you all kind of touched on this, like the importance of, you know, obviously just staying connected with the education community and listening and understanding like what people need right now. I'm curious, you know, how then have you been able to stay on top of all these evolving needs of supporting teachers and the upcoming school year and brand new users who might not be as familiar with your product? So I'm going to go, let's see, James, I know you were starting to even touch on this a little bit with just the amount of new users that you've had across the globe. How would you say that you're trying to stay on top of all those evolving needs?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. You know, I think really what we have focused on internally is kind of just going back to the basics. Yeah, I think it's easy to kind of be overwhelmed by everything that's going on, especially like what you just said, which is, you know, how many different ways, how many different people are using the product, what they need, how the needs are changing so fast. So our reaction has really just been to go back to what we do best and reinvest in like the core of Screencastify, which is making it super easy to create, edit, and share videos, and making that easier and more stable and able to handle a much bigger and more diverse community. I always get more excited actually when we take away a feature or a part of our product as opposed to adding a new one, because I think it's really difficult to distill something down to make it as simple as possible, but still able to solve a large, you know, set of problems. So we have really just been making sure that this coming school year, Screencastify can be used by every educator and be incredibly reliable to continue to build that trust that this is something that you can count on if you need to communicate with your students at any time. So, you know, I don't know if that's you know a real answer to your question, because I think we've just been really trying to like stay, like I mentioned, like really kind of focused on one thing as opposed to getting pulled many different directions. But that is, I mean, that is what we talk about kind of almost every day internally.
No, I think that makes a ton of sense. Like the best way to support global users is to really do, one or a handful of things really, really well. And you focused on that stability and making sure that it was accessible and people had, it was a reliable tool. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And Riley, I'd love to hear from you and just how has Pear Deck been trying to, keep on top of all these, new needs that we're finding ourselves in today?
Yeah, we're trying to think about what's the same about our mission now and what's different. And we've always been trying to make sure teachers can give powerful learning moments to every single kid every day. And honestly, we sort of eschewed we're not focused on remote learning. We think the teacher will always be an important part of education, and all these people want to do us to work without a teacher and remotely, but that's not our focus. And then lately, our priorities have shifted about supporting remote instruction a little bit, and so making sure that we're flipping the like James was saying, the minimum amount of stuff that keep the core concept as simple as possible. We want to help teachers teach well, knowing that now their kids might not be there in the same time or same place. So we have a foundation of our mission, and we rely on learning science a lot. And then starting in March, we're just reacting as quickly as we could in the product to support distance learning then. And then, just listening. I would say also that, there are big parts of our students that aren't that well represented in edtech. And we've been working a lot more actively in the last several months to go outside of the network that's formed organically around us and make sure that as everyone's so drastically affected, we're representing in our own designs needs that we might not naturally know about.
I love that. That's amazing. And Catherine, anything that you'd like to share about how Book Creator's been trying to keep up with everything that's going on and addressing the current needs?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much like James and Riley were saying too. Our core focus hasn't changed. We still have our core focus, but now it's just flipping that focus in some way and trying to figure out how can we make this as simple as possible for teachers in a remote learning environment, and realizing how can we make new developments, get feedback on that and change that and make it the best as it can be, especially when we have parents that are now using our tool in a remote environment. So we've been trying our best to keep in contact with Google as much as possible, other edtech partners, just how we can make it as streamlined as possible.
Yeah, that's not an altogether new group of folks, but definitely a big focus I know that we've been thinking about too is just parents, right? And helping them be prepared to help their students probably more than ever. So that's a great point. I'm curious to know how each of you have literally adjusted your plans for supporting teachers in this upcoming school year as well. Maybe Riley, we can go back to you for that.
We've done a lot of just focusing on making things simple and easy to implement for administrators. So we weren't planning on some integrations that now we're launching as a sort of premium, a primary priority. So just on the roadmap, things are changing to support new needs. And I think I mentioned in some other answers also, we're just changing priorities and at the budget level, making sure that we're reaching outside of our existing network. So we're hearing and knowing about more.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That makes sense. It's really great to hear that you guys are taking a very proactive approach to make sure that you're reaching out to other communities that you might not already have been in, which is great. James, how about you? How Screencastify adjusting your overall plan for ongoing support this upcoming school year, whatever it may bring?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that we have done is actually in the makeup of our team. So prior to the pandemic, we really didn't actually have a customer or a user success team, and we're still a very small team, but we had no one sort of representing that. And I think, we always sort of, we're saying, okay, well, Screencastify is a really easy tool to use. Maybe we don't need to, build out a team there if we have limited resources. But we've really adjusted that over the last few months. And Laura Litton, who just moderated a panel before this, has built out our success team, because we've really learned, like, okay, it may be easy to install Screencastify and make a video. Like, how to use Screencastify might be simple, but it's the why that we really need to help the community understand. And that is different for every single educator in every single school in every single country. So we've certainly, the team looks very, very different if you look around than it would have if this didn't happen. And certainly the roadmap as well, as Riley was saying. I mean, we just introduced Screencastify Submit, which is a super easy way to create video assignments and hear from your students. That was really accelerated because of this. It wasn't an idea that was meant for COVID. That was the idea that we had in the car ride home from a school visit. But it has very clear applications for hearing from your students asynchronously, and we have really invested in bringing that to the market as quickly and as safely as we can. So we've dedicated a lot more resources there than we would have otherwise.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really cool to see the structural, and I'm hearing the theme from all of you that simplicity has been a big piece of kind of how to address all of this. Catherine, is there anything that you'd like to add on this topic?
Similar things. Our main focus is for the upcoming school year, we're just infrastructure, security, support. We've been massively increasing our webinar support. Some days we're offering 2 to 3 webinars every single day, really working with regional PD partners, just however we can best serve the community of teachers, offering any remote learning resources possible, and trying to roll out any new features. I know we have real-time collaboration. We just recently rolled out as free to all users to really help for the remote learning environment. So just really making it as helpful as possible.
Amazing. I'm curious, I'm just from some leaders in kind of the educational technology space. What do you think the biggest value ed tech companies can provide to educators right now? And maybe Catherine, we'll stay with you for this.
Yeah, I think the 2 main things that we can offer are flexibility and support, because we are really kind of jumping into an unknown, and being able to offer schools flexibility and support with things. So whether it be needing to change something with the product, whether it be offering some specific type of support or being flexibility with specific things, being able to respond in those moments and making it known that we are flexible and being able to support them and that we're in this together. I think those are 2 things that can be really helpful for them going into this upcoming school year.
Yeah, for sure. Riley, how about you? What do you think are some things that ed tech companies can do to add value right now?
Yeah, one thing we're focused on is helping teachers. Excuse me. I struggle to answer this question because I think that the teachers and schools right now just have a unfathomable task to trying to make everyone happy as like the next level under keeping all these children safe and all of our societal structures intact. So one thing that we've focused on specifically is not only helping teachers be instructionally effective and be good at their jobs, but really feel good at their jobs. At the just extra support in the just celebration of the work that they are doing and the success that we are having. I think we should all probably lower our expectations for like maintaining the status quo and hitting the same achievements and, hitting the same educational milestones. And so we're trying to help teachers feel proud of the work they're doing, even as there's going to be a lot of things making them feel like they're not able to do the job they want to do.
Yeah, that's a great point too. And James, anything that you'd like to add?
I mean, I completely agree with Catherine and Riley, and it's a difficult question to answer because I don't know if I really know the answer. I think part of it is just being human about it, and thinking about it less as like how can we as ed tech provide value? How can we just go to work every day and answer a bunch of questions as best we can and help out people who are having problems that have never been had before, and just kind of being there. I think that in times of chaos or trauma, people, not just educators, humans, just turn to old friends, not new ones, and there's a reason for that. And I think that if you extend that analogy to ed tech, which you can, or if you can think of it what you want, but I think that Book Creator and Pear Deck and Screencastify are old friends, and we have a huge responsibility to just be there, and celebrate the small things, like Riley said, and just be super flexible, because no one knows how this is going to turn out, and we just have to do what we can to maintain the trust that we are grateful to have built over the last few years.
Yeah. I love that analogy, and I think everything you all said, highlighting the need for flexibility, celebrating, even the smallest wins can be really monumental at this time, and that shared humanity. And I was just thinking as you're all speaking, I'm like, wow, Book Creator, Screencastify, Pear Deck. I mean, these are major famous, products out there that educators use around the world. And it's just really cool to be on this conversation, having this conversation with all three of you, and really just seeing the people behind those products. So I think that's a really, really cool thing too. My next question was really, I kind of wanted to pivot to really specifically kind of COVID-19 and the pandemic that we're all facing. I was just curious, is there a standout moment that comes to mind for you that really illustrates that flexibility or dedication that educators have? Maybe Riley, we'll start with you.
One moment.
Yeah, is there just one or several?
A couple for my son, our spring break started March 19th or something. And so the moment our Pear Deck had been reacting really since maybe December, sort of abroad, but my family was planning on taking the train to Colorado on March 18th, right? And it was sort of March 17th, we were in the car, maybe not. So right away, just teachers understanding over spring break that school wouldn't be opening again after spring break. Was that first real moment that I remember. I don't know, this is just, I don't know, my coronavirus journal entry, sorry. But visually, I have in mind this one Twitter thread where teachers are posting all of their desk situations, like desks and bathtubs and other things. And one woman was in her, a lawn chair propped up on the stair, a stairway that bent, and had her feet up on a half wall while she was grading papers and things. And I don't know, those are two distinct visual images for me. They're like, oh, this is really a thing that people are really, really having to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Catherine, how about you? Is there a moment that really comes to mind that illustrates all the incredible things that educators do and have been doing?
I don't know if it's a change in my mind, but it's also just a reminder of how amazing educators are, and how just this, a flip of a switch, and seeing teachers go from one day being in the classroom and the next day not, and all of a sudden the next week emailing me, hopping on webinars, saying what is Book Creator? How can I do this? And them just creating these like amazing things for their students and seeing how much they care. And just how schools on a flip of a switch have just put everything online, I just think is insanely incredible. So it's just a reminder how amazing educators are. And yeah, I will take that in the future. And it props to everyone, especially those that are also parents. I don't know how you do it. And it's a reminder every day when I'm on a webinar with a school or a training and just seeing how positive they are too. And they just really thoroughly care. Yeah, it's been fantastic to see.
Same. I absolutely agree. And then James, how about you? What's something that stood out for you?
Yeah, I remember we heard a story. So we've been hearing from teachers that one of the hardest things to keep going is the social emotional learning. It's, you're just trying to get in touch with students every day. Like that is something that is at risk at being not forgotten about, but unable to continue. And we learned about a teacher around New York City while it was really the epicenter of the pandemic, who really took it upon herself to make checking in with her students a priority, even when it was really, really, really difficult to be in touch with them in general. And I remember she told us what she was learning about her students. One of them, their parents worked in the healthcare industry and was sleeping at the hospital, was super stressed out. Another one was in a tiny one-room apartment with 5 other people. And many of them were just struggling with the overall gravity of the situation, didn't even know how to process it, and kind of just forgot about some other things for a while and created this dialogue of, how are you feeling today? And that was a moment where I think really illustrated a teacher being a teacher, right? Not to a textbook or to a curriculum, but just being there for students and helping them really grow and learn a lot, just in a different way, and totally off the kind of like off the plan, right? And something that has really stuck with me. Penny, I don't know if you're watching, but talking about you. But that's been a really incredible story, and I'm sure that's not the only. I mean, I'm sure that's one of hundreds of thousands of stories like that that I think is really, really, really inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that story. I'm sure she'll appreciate the call out. This is really my last question, but I think a good way to kind of end is, what is something that you've learned during this time of school closures, dealing with COVID-19, the uncertainty of the future? What is something that you've learned that you will take forward and continue doing in the future, kind of despite or no matter what, the world's looking like? Maybe James, will stay with you for this one.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that we've learned. I think one of the things that kind of goes to that story I just mentioned was that what's happened during COVID is it's just given so much of a spotlight and more texture to like the full life of a student outside of the classroom. And I think that sometimes we can get caught up with just the classroom as an encapsulation of education and of the people in the classroom. And so I maybe I'm an optimist, but what I'm hoping is what's really forcing us to do is think about the way that people use Screencastify everywhere, online, offline, at home, in a park, in a classroom, in an office, whatever it might be. And ideally, like, think about actual things happening to that person, again, as a human, as opposed to just a means to a particular like pedagogical outcome. And I think that could have a lot of positive impacts, of course, of like in the product, but also for just the way that we approach lots of things. So again, maybe it's obviously that learning that has come at the expense of a lot of hardship. But I'm hoping that at least we here at the Screencastify can take that moving forward.
Amazing. Yeah. Catherine, how about you? What's something that you'll take forward?
Yeah, I think kind of bouncing off that too, just how we can even take just technology in general. And I know seeing just an influx in just users in general on edtech and tech programs across the board, but then specifically in Book Creator, and just seeing how many our users just kind of skyrocketing over the last few months, and seeing how they can embed Book Creator in their curriculum across the board, and then how they can use it as a platform to also just amplify student voices. I think in this current environment, a lot of things have come up, and we can really use this as a platform to highlight specific student voices and allow students around the world to really share their stories. And I hope that we and teachers and educators around the world can really use Book Creator in that, and see that in their classroom, and feel motivated to share those and publish those stories on other platforms as well.
Amazing. And Riley, last but not least, how about you? What is something that you've learned over these past several months that you want to take with you in the future?
I think I am still one of the people like swirling around in a miasma of like lessons to be. We're coping, and my son has been in this podcast. I don't know if you caught his arm. We're really understanding a lot more about who does what in our society, and I think I've learned a lot more about some of the systemic inequity that pervades a lot of it, and how interwoven school and politics and essential workers are to the fundamental underpinnings of like the technology community. And so I think that's going to be probably the biggest adjustment in my perspective in terms of what I'm intentionally going for with by having a company in the first place. I don't know if I'm going to get another chance to just shout out to my team who has been like struggling and adapting and all this stuff. And I don't want to make this all about us, but just learning what people are willing to do and how fast they're willing to adjust, even when job descriptions aren't super clear around a social mission, has been really inspiring. And I think that is going to stick with me too.
That's amazing. Thank you all so much, and to your teams for helping make this entire event happen. I did just want to take a few moments here at the end as part of the closing to just again thank all of you for joining us. Thank all of you, James, Catherine, Riley, like I said, your entire teams, all of the speakers and panelists for putting in the work to help all of us succeed as we look to return to school in an unconventional way. I also personally wanted to shout out my teammate, Karen Shapiro, who has been on every single one of these sessions as our lead producer, if you will, behind the scenes. So thank you to her. I'm sure me, just like all of you, if you'd asked me what back to school this fall would be, or if you told me it was going to be filled with all these really complicated decisions about teachers, staff, student safety, and in addition to like the regular academic needs, I know I wouldn't have believed it. But of course, here we are, right? We're living it. We're problem solving. We're working together to do what we can, right? To create and support support all of our students to be as successful as possible around the world. I've always enjoyed working in education. I come from a long line of educators in my family, but I'd say just these past several months, the admiration and respect that I've always had for them has multiplied exponentially as I've witnessed, just what all of you had just mentioned, the educators their positivity. They're working tirelessly for these months on end to adjust to all the challenges that they're facing right now. And as those needs just, change on a daily basis. On behalf of everyone at Google for Education, I really do want to say a heartfelt thank you. As mothers, parents, grandparents, community members, former educators, as humans, I think we talked a lot about just shared humanity in this past session. I think we're just so grateful for all of your selfless service to students and your entire education community. Truly are just vital to our future. And again, like I said, but truly, really special thank you to partners at Pear, Screencastify, and Book Creator for just coming together, envisioning and creating this entire event. Again, thank you to every speaker, panelist, moderator for giving of your time, your talent, your experience, so we all learn and grow. And thank you to all of you for sharing your time with us to just better support each other and our students going forward. With that, everyone take care, and we'll see you at our next event. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.